Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where you get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Discover data-driven strategies and learn from a wealth of experience so that you can take your retirement to the next level. Now, here's your host. He was once bitten by a harbor seal, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
Thank you for that awesome introduction. As always, we are back now on Personal Pension Radio. I'm joined on the line by Mark Miller.
Hey, Craig, how you doing?
Doing good. So everybody out there in Personal Pension Radio land, we are broadcasting from our new updated location, now broadcasting live from Mr. Foley's van down by the river. Mr. Foley, of course, an awesome, amazing motivational speaker extraordinaire.
Yes, we attended one of his seminars down by the river, and he's allowed us to use his van.
I know. What a guy. I mean, he's just generous. So we are brought to you by...
The shag carpet, by the way, is very nice.
Yes, it's kind of funny. It feels weird in your toes, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
We're brought to you by Personal Pension Radio, personalpensionradio.com. So don't forget to check that out. Head on over there. Show notes on every episode. We're up to now 32 episodes and counting. Thank you so much to all of our listeners. We have listeners now all around the world. Some of our listeners out there, New York, Indianapolis. Hello to everybody in Michigan. Really excited to have everybody out there. And as far away as the Orient, on the other side of the pond, if you will. So we're excited to have everybody. Speaking of... Yeah.
And great reviews, by the way, right?
Yes, thank you. And a great reminder, Mark. The reviews we're getting on iTunes are awesome. We really would love to have some more reviews from our fantastic audience. Head on over to iTunes and leave a review there. Tell us what you think. Ask some questions. Tell your friends about it. We really appreciate the support. Now, before we continue, a short disclaimer before we get to the long one at the end of the show. This is a show about, personal pension, financing, financial planning. We talk about all different things, but remember, don't take advice from people that you hear on the radio, on TV, or online. Meet with someone personally. Develop a relationship. Right, Mark Miller?
Yeah, that's really key. There's... Well, even further, Craig, than that, I think meet with someone that is licensed. I feel that a lot of the financial folks who are currently on the radio or maybe even online are not currently licensed. And so I feel it's really important that you meet with someone who's properly licensed and has the credentials and the licenses behind their name that allow them to help you navigate these very shark-ridden waters.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. So that's our short disclosure. Just before you take any action on any of the topics that you might hear on a show like ours, you want to actually take the biggest step, which is the most important step, is to actually establish a personal relationship with a team like us here at Personal Pension Radio, if you'd like to, or whomever that might be, before you get out there and take action. Okay, so Mark, maybe you can give our audience, those especially new listeners, a little bit of information, maybe a snippet on what is Personal Pension Radio all about?
Well, a lot of it was about what you just actually gave in that short disclosure there, but it's really about educating the future retiree and retirees about the steps needed in order to have an enjoyable retirement. I think there's a lot of folks out there who are struggling to even believe that they can retire, or they're in retirement and they're struggling due to some mistakes that they've made. And we're all about helping people understand the tools that are out there, that how to use them, how to put them together strategically, and to allow them to have an enjoyable lifestyle during retirement.
That's a great way to put it. I've had this conversation recently that there is no silver bullet, if you will, that fixes the retirement income and lifestyle preservation dilemma. There's no one thing that fixes it. It is a strategy. It is putting it together correctly.
Yeah, I mean, all the tools are out there. They're all available, but in the world today that we live in, there's a lot of noise on ways to do it, and it's not a product driven thing. It's a strategic thing, in using the appropriate strategy to get up this proverbial hill that, if you've been listening in the past, that we talk about, is going to be the golden spike or the silver bullet that will get you down the mountain when you're in retirement. So,
absolutely, I think that's a great way to put it. The idea, if you haven't heard of it in our analogy, those who are new to the show, the analogy of the mountain, that when you're thinking about going on an expedition, climbing a mountain, and you ask yourself the question, what is the ultimate goal of climbing that mountain? Most people think right away to get to the top, a sense of accomplishment. What else do you hear, Mark? You've heard other things before, but I hear to get to the top or a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, primarily that is the main theme behind what everyone says when they think about this mountain. But of course, we've taught that it's not just to get to the top, but being a father of 2 Eagle Scouts and have been on many a hike, I know that my wife was very appreciative that I got them back home safely.
That's right. We got to get back down the mountain to tell everybody about our journey.
Absolutely, and have a good time doing it. I think that's the other thing that retirement or future retirees are faced with is, and a lot of the noise out there is, hey, just reduce your lifestyle. I mean, I think you mentioned something, Craig, when we were talking about some of the things that we were going to talk about today. Some of the thought process out there, reduce your lifestyle or reduce your income by 20 to 30%, you'll be okay. And I say, well, okay, why don't you try doing that starting today and see how it feels?
Oh, that's that's an excellent point of view.
And if it doesn't feel very comfortable, then it's not going to feel very comfortable in retirement.
Especially at the time. See, today when we're working and we've got kids, and many of us out here listening, I'm sure you're used to, or perhaps just have been comfortable with the idea that there are certain things that you're just that you put off, that you're not going to be able to do right now because you have family obligations or work obligations. So there's a certain acceptance, right, that there are things that we will do and hope to do later. But when you get into retirement, that's the point in time when you're supposed to be able to do those things, right?
Yeah, but there are other things that take up those expenses. So the idea that you will need less money, and you're exactly right, people are using their current incomes to sustain lifestyle today with children and education, schooling, housing, all the things that they're faced with in their financial lives. And the idea that those things all disappear in retirement, they may not be children, schooling, all those things, but they become different expenses in retirement. And primarily it's healthcare. And so this idea that we can have less money in retirement and live a comfortable lifestyle, and not have the expenses associated with the climbing of the mountain is the expenses are just different. And still there. The need is still going to be there for maximum income.
Absolutely. Someone had said, the first thing that someone said to me earlier this week was, well, I won't have a mortgage payment. Okay, so how many weeks of vacation do you take currently was my next question. Oh, we usually get away for 2 or 3 weeks. 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, so you don't have a mortgage payment, but you're retired now and you have 12 months of free time. You don't think maybe that you might spend a little extra money traveling? Maybe?
Yeah.
Right? And you could just see that. Absolutely. You're going to have more time to travel.
Every day is Saturday when you're retired. Every day is a Saturday.
Every day is a Saturday. And if you have one expense go away, let's say it's kids or a mortgage, well, then you have more free time to pick up other expenses. And what we found, at least me personally, and Mark, you'll have to speak to this in your experience, with my parents, with my in-laws, I've seen that their expenses actually went up. It didn't go down.
Well, yeah, absolutely. There's just that's what I was saying before. Their expenses will either stay the same or go up. It's not that things are going to get less expensive as we get older. And the irony is that as we pay off our mortgages and stop working, we also lose some valuable deductions that we were using in pre-retirement that we no longer have in post-retirement.
Right.
And
so like you used to, you might have been able to have a deduction for head of household or raising children or mortgage interest deductions, all of 401k contributions, all of that, right?
Yeah. So suddenly, okay, so I don't owe a mortgage, but I owe more tax. That's a mortgage.
Right.
And the lien holder is the United States government. And so it's just the same.
Right.
I know we're belaboring
No.
the point,
I think it's a really important point. It's just to make sure that folks understand that this idea that it's going to all of a sudden cost you less to live because you're now retired, I think that's a very convenient message that has been implanted into the common thoughts of folks thinking about retirement. It's been injected into that mindset, and it's very convenient for the financial world because we know, as you've heard on this show, and you have to go back and listen to some of the additional episodes, the back episodes, we talk about things like sequence risk, Monte Carlo simulations. We talk about the risks associated with an investment-only retirement, and the solution, the fix for that particular risk is to take out less money from your retirement accounts. So
yeah, but that's not what is happening in reality, Craig. What is happening? I believe what is happening is that folks get themselves in a pickle, if you will, and they start to discover that expenses are higher and that they need more income, and they don't. And their nest egg is dwindling, and they don't take less money. What they do is take more risk in their investing, and cause greater harm to the sustainability of their portfolio. That's been my experience over the years as you've watched folks. I don't. What is your?
I have to agree. I have seen that. I've seen that tendency to chase rate of return because folks have gotten into a retirement distribution with a one idea that we're going to be able to take a certain amount of income, and then that seems like a conservative number, and then they get into retirement 1 or 2 or 3 years and they realize that that's not working out. It's not actually working out, and rather than accept the reality that they probably need to take less, they really need to cut back, they are more prone to be chasing rate of return and what's the rate of return on that investment and what's the rate of return on that account, rather than looking for a comprehensive strategy to put a distribution plan in place that actually brings more security, that brings more certainty back, right?
Well, absolutely, and putting obviously the sooner that you put a distribution strategy in place, and that means in pre-retirement, while you are climbing the mountain, having a distribution strategy beginning with the end in mind. And I know we've talked about this in past podcasts, but beginning with that end in mind, i.e. the metaphor of coming back down the mountain, the better your results will be in retirement. It just makes sense. Rather than getting to retirement, getting to the top of the mountain and having that aha moment that you see that you needed a rope to get down the mountain, and you didn't bring one.
Yeah, if you didn't pack your bags correctly, you're stuck. You're out of luck. You don't get to repack your bags after you get to the top of the mountain. For those of you new to the show and those of you who have been with us now for a while, go back and listen to episode number 10, podcast episode number 10, where we went over the idea of coming down the mountain. Episode 9, climbing up the retirement mountain. So go back and listen and download those. We've got full transcripts on the website at personalpensionradio.com. Episodes 9 and 10, up and down the mountain. Really good content there, if I do say so myself, right?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad. But I guess the important, maybe a takeaway that I'd like to just leave here on a positive note, and I feel it's so important to bring a positive spin to the show so that you don't get the idea that it's all negative. It's not doom and gloom. What we're trying to tell you here is there is a way to avoid this standard advice, which is you should plan to live on less. Well, don't plan to live on less. Seek out ways to live on what you want, not settling for less. And there are ways to do that without sacrificing your lifestyle today or in the future.
Well, Kraig, it is excuse me. It is as simple as saying, if you went to a hotel and they said, "Hey, listen, we have an obstructed room view that is $199 a night, and we also have an ocean view room for the same $199. Which room do you want?"
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like a no-brainer. Of course, I want the ocean view room for the same price. The point of talking about that is that you do have choices. You just have to think through these things, and you can do it. It is a positive message. You can make it. You can have the income that you want. You can have the lifestyle that you hope to achieve. With as hard as that all of you work, we get that. We all work hard, and we want to have a great lifestyle in retirement. It just means that we need to make sure that we're using the proper tools, and we've talked about it in past podcasts, and that we have all of our financial powers in place, if that gives us a good lead into our next discussion, in order for us to have success in retirement.
Yeah, no, it's probably my biggest passion. It's where the strongest feelings about the work that we do, comes from, is to help people and encourage them to step back away from the standard mainstream advice that tells everybody to settle for less and seek out options and opportunities to have what they actually want. And you're right. It's there. It's absolutely there.
Don't hesitate to reach out to us and just ask a question. No obligation. Hey, I'm doing this. What do you think?
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent advice. If you're out there and you're having a conversation with someone about retirement income planning, and you hear the buzzwords that we talk about all the time, we talk about Monte Carlo simulations and 4% rules, and we talk about these various things, and you're not comfortable with the answers that you're getting, you have to know that we're here for you. We absolutely are passionate about being here for you, our listeners. Personalpensionradio.com. You go ahead and fill out that contact us, and we'll be right there with you. We look forward to it.
Well, I actually like the word in prepare.
Yes.
Better than planning. So wipe the word planning out. Retirement preparation. It just is. We need to prepare for all the things that we can prepare for. In if we do the proper preparation for this event, which is going to happen in all of our lives. So hopefully, we all make it to that day where we get to retire. Then you can, with the right preparation and the right strategy in place, have the retirement that you desire.
No, you got it. And Mark, I think you made a great transition there with a moment ago. When we're going to talk about in the next segment is some of the economic rules of retirement. Some of those just good basic economic rules to understand that when you get to retirement, we're going to start with this. There are 3 specific functions that you need from your money, from your assets. And the first one is you need to have
income.
You need to have income. You absolutely have to have income that pays for your lifestyle. So those two things are interchangeable. When we talk about lifestyle preservation and lifestyle planning, we're talking about income planning, income preparation, right?
That's right.
And the more efficient we are at satisfying and getting that desired income stream, the more money that we have left for the other two functions of our money, right? So when efficiency maybe is an item you can talk to Mark, that's the key thing there. The more efficient we are in satisfying that income stream.
Well, that's right, because we only have a finite amount of money that is going to flow into our proverbial money bucket throughout our lives. And so efficiency has always been important. I mean, if I'm filling a bucket full of water and I'm only going to be given so much water and I've got a hole in my bucket, that's not efficient. And so having an overall efficient strategy and looking for all the potential holes, then that makes a lot more sense than having a bunch of holes in my bucket and I'm not able to patch them up.
Exactly. And as we look at assets that are set to draw income from, we have to remember that, as an example, our primary house, the house we live in, is generally not an income asset. That is more of a legacy asset, which is the third component. But income assets are those things that we built up, such as 401ks, stocks and bonds, real estate, rental properties, business assets. Those are the things that we intend to draw income from, and it's critical that we find the most efficient way to get the desired income stream so that we can have more money left for the other two components.
Well, you're saying the distribution, meaning taking from those. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So
that
now,
makes sense to me.
Yep, absolutely. So the next piece, we've got income. We need to have money set for liquidity. Money set aside for liquidity that is not intended to be drawn on for income. And we use that money for emergencies and, my favorite word, opportunities. Right?
That's right.
So if we think about it, because now there's a lot of folks out there that I hear, and it frustrates me when I hear it, that say, you're crazy for keeping that much cash in the bank. Well, whatever that amount is, you should be earning a rate of return on your cash. Well, I always ask this question, who had all the money to buy up the houses when the recession hit in 2008 and 9? People who had cash, right?
Yeah.
So the rate of return on their cash was actually more than just the interest rate their bank was paying. It also included the opportunities they were able to take advantage of, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a much bigger question than when somebody says, oh, you're not earning a rate of return on your cash on hand. Well, I haven't seen what my next opportunity is to be able to use that cash, so I don't know what my actual rate of return will be. But we keep liquidity for that opportunity and emergency component, not intending to draw income from that money, just it's there for those things, right?
Yep.
And then finally, the third piece, so we've got our income and our liquidity, the third piece being legacy. That whatever we don't spend or use for liquidity or use for income ultimately ends up going to legacy to the people and causes that we choose, right?
That's correct.
Now, that's a key one, though, the people that we choose. So you do have to do some solid planning there to make sure that whatever happens to be left over does in fact go to the people of your choosing rather than being chosen by the government or the local probate judge, right?
Yeah, I think choice is key in all of these strategies that you've just discussed, is that having the appropriate efficient strategy in place gives you choices versus, hey, this is the only way I can go.
Right. No, when you look at legacy, there's any number of ways to plan for that, and we'll have additional topics on that over the months ahead. But remembering that legacy is a choice, as Mark just said, you have to actually make a conscious decision, or there's plenty of provisions in the government and the tax code and the county government codes and everything else. They will choose for you. So if you ever have any questions about legacy and legacy planning, we love that conversation. And it's one of our passions to make sure that as little money as necessary, or only as much as necessary, goes to the government. How's that? Only as much as necessary.
And to be fair, there may be listeners who have no legacy desires, meaning that they're you know what? They want the last check that they write, the very last day, the last breath that they take. They want that to be the last check, and they be at zero because they don't have a legacy desire. And that's okay. Again, having the right strategy in place will give you that choice. If you don't, then you may not have that choice, and it may be left up to somebody else on how that happens.
Exactly. That's good. So, economic rules of retirement. Number one, the three functions of money: income, liquidity, legacy. The second component we wanted to cover here in the economic rules is the economic principles of maximum income. So the economic principles of maximum income starts with balancing the two main financial powers. And Mark, maybe you could cover those two, give us a general overview.
Yeah, most people are familiar with the first of the two economic powers or financial powers, and that being rate of return or an interest rate.
Right.
And that is the return or the interest earned on your bucket of money or on your investments over a period of time throughout your life. Everyone is familiar with that particular term. The second one, which is less common or less understood, and it's a power that most people had. My parents, Kraig, your parents had it, and most of our parents had it. Today, the numbers are quite small, but it's a power that used to be present but no longer is present, and that's the power called actuarial science.
Yeah, actuarial science is a big one. I think that's definition-wise. Perhaps we want to dive in just a little bit to make sure that folks know what that is.
Yeah, that assesses kind of the probabilities of both mortality and longevity. That same thing, mortality. And the financial risk to that particular pool of individuals based on a group. And so, I'm really going off track.
No, it's actually when we look at it, it's probably the most common place we see actuarial science is in mortality. We see that in pensions. We see that in annuities in the life insurance world. It's that study of uncertain events, namely mortality.
That's
and
right.
You already mentioned it. Our parents used to get the benefit of an actuarial financial component where they would get to the doorstep of retirement and they would receive a guaranteed paycheck, a pension, based on the actuarial probabilities of how long they might live. And they got a nice guaranteed paycheck that they could rely on for consistent income, right?
Well, what they purchased, and this term is, as you get the free report, you'll see this. They purchased something, a phrase that I know most people have never heard before. They had an actuarial bond.
An actuarial bond, yes.
And the maturity for that was their own personal mortality. and the payout rate on these bonds were much higher than you can purchase anywhere else. And so it was the best of both worlds. Most of the bonds, Kraig, and you can jump in here at any time, have a maturity at some point. It may be 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years.
You can get them out to 20, 30 years, but there's no bond that has a maturity tied to your mortality. And what folks used to get with a pension, when they got a pension, or if they purchase a certain type of income annuity, they basically receive a bond with an income stream tied directly to their mortality. And you alluded to this, the income rates from those actuarial financial assets are higher because actuarially they tie together and pool multiple people into a group. So they're pooling the risk over multiple people. Instead of you being all by yourself, having to try and figure out how to take your income, now your income is coming from a financial source where the risk is spread over many instead of just one.
That's right. And so the power of that is now I have an income stream that I can outlive. It's not callable, meaning they can't, say, hey, you have to sell that back to me. So it's not callable, and it lasts forever. I can live 50, 60, 70 years if I want, and it will never, ever run out. And that's what my parents had, your parents, in a pension-type income.
Absolutely. So that economic principles, number one, and the idea of maximizing income is really to seek a balance between the two financial powers, between that interest rate of return, and the actuarial component of a savings plan. It has to be balanced. It can't be one or the other, but to seek out the proper balance. Now, that is an area that we're passionate about. We specialize in that area, and it's a specialty that a few people, in my opinion, a few people in the financial world really understand well enough to help. But we just love it. Love that conversation.
Well, many of you I know that are listening may feel that you will never be able to attain the assets that you will need to retire. We hear it all the time, and it's because you are relying on only one of those powers.
So
and that's
true.
The interest rate of return power.
Yeah, if you rely on interest rate of return alone, it is very difficult to come back down the mountain.
Yeah, and I hate to simplify it, but just the incorporation of this second power, the power of actuarial science, or incorporating actuarial bonds into your portfolio, it makes all the difference from the longevity standpoint, from higher income and sustainability of that income.
Absolutely. Yeah, it improves everything. When they are balanced correctly, it improves everything. Now,
that's the secret sauce. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's the secret sauce right there. We should put that in a bottle. Balance the two main financial powers. That's something we just love doing that. Now, a secondary piece here, maximum income, also relies on this. When you're looking at your 401k or your investments in general, it's really important to avoid starting and stopping the growth cycle. We don't want to start. So what we mean by that is, as you grow up your investments or your 401k or whatever it might be, it's really important to avoid stopping that growth cycle. So when we make a big expense or a planned expense like paying for college or mortgages or weddings or business loans, accounts that had been growing and compounding on themselves and compounding very nicely, as soon as we make that expense and we stop that block of money from growing, if we put the money back in, we have to reset the timeline and basically start the compounding cycle over again, right?
Yeah, it's very inefficient. Obviously, lost growth, tax issues, And so there is a better way to do it. There absolutely is a better way to do it using the assets that you do have. Again, all economically sound and strategic. Understanding how to use your assets in a way that will allow you to be further ahead makes all the difference in the world. There's just a smarter way to use your money.
Absolutely. So that's again.
Ironically enough, cash is the least efficient strategy.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we can go into a whole show just on that topic alone. Yeah, exactly. The final item is to be sensitive to and be aware of just how important longevity risk is. Longevity risk is that climb down the mountain is taking longer than anyone ever imagined, even 20 years ago. We have a lady that was in the news last week who was celebrating her, oh my gosh, I think it was her 110th birthday, some crazy 110 years old. And it just reminded me that longevity risk is a serious economic component of our retirement decisions. So we can't take it lightly. This idea that we talked about earlier with an actuarial bond that ties your income to your own mortality takes care of longevity risk.
Yeah, they're not. I have a friend whose mother is 100 years old. Actually turned 100 here just about a month ago. And she is living on her husband's pension and has been, her husband's been gone for 25 years. Wow.
Guaranteed income.
And she has got that monthly pension for life. She won. She doesn't, there's no worry there. That paycheck is going to be there on the first.
Yeah, it's the thing that gives my mom her security. My mother, bless her heart, she has 3 with Social Security, guaranteed income deposits into her checking account every month, and just loves it. So it is a really, really strong part of her security that just allows her to live her life and not worry. When the market crashes, when whatever might happen is happening in the world, she never worries. So,
well, and we know by research, Kraig, in one of our earlier podcasts, that is really the desire of most of the future retirees that are still out there working. If they could have that type of opportunity from their employer or to create it on their own, I think it was, if I remember right, the numbers were like 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it was substantial. The majority of people surveyed said that they would even give up some of their current paycheck today, right now, in favor of being able to have that actuarial benefit of a pension immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, this has been great. It's always great to have Mark Miller on the show. Always great to have you to talk back and forth with here. As we wrap up here, as for a call to action, everybody, don't assume that it's too late. If you are already retired, if you already started heading down the mountain, and you're just not as happy with the actual income, maybe you did settle for less. Maybe you are currently settling for less than you had hoped for. Don't assume that it's too late. We help people all the time change their financial picture dramatically. So it's never too late. Don't think you have to settle for that standard 20 or 30% cut in lifestyle. We can help.
Yeah, email us, ask us a question. Again, I just encourage everyone, you don't have to, we're not going to pounce on you. We just, we're here to help. Ask us a question. We're glad to answer it and see if we can help you accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish.
Outstanding. We're going to wrap it up. Call to action. Don't forget to get over to personalpensionradio.com. Download the free Optimizing Retirement Income Report. It is substantial, in-depth, probably the best resource that's ever been put out. And also, everybody listening, opportunity for you to have your own retirement income analysis done. It's a very easy way for you to get a benchmark on what you're currently headed for and just how good it could be if you make some basic changes in your current plan. We'll have a retirement income analysis done for you. Complimentary. Don't have to worry about it. Just send us a note at personalpensionradio.com and we will get that ready for you. And don't miss out on the next episode. We've got some great guests lined up. We're really happy to have you here. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you're there, we'd appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening.